of the San Francisco Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee.
Thank you, and I know that Connor Johnson from Supervisor Breed's office was here earlier but could not stay, and Supervisor Breed had a statement that I'm just going to read. She says that I apologize that I'm not able to join the hearing today. About 2 weeks ago, Zach Marks, the chairman of the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee, contacted me to request a hearing before the board. Mr. Marks informed me that per its bylaws, the PSAC is supposed to update the Board of Supervisors on its activities each quarter. I know Richard Rothman and others have done this in the past, and we really appreciate it. Yet the committee has not had the opportunity to do so in over a year. Pedestrian safety is extremely important to me. I am actively working on safety improvement projects, including Masonic Boulevard, the Fell and Oak bike lanes, and the Octavia corridor. The Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee is a critical element of San Francisco's transportation safety efforts, and I am grateful to the board that the board will have an opportunity to hear from its members directly today. Thank you. So that's a statement from Supervisor Breed. I'd like to introduce Zach Marks, the chairman of the PSAC.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here today. My name is Zach Marks, the new chairman of the San Francisco Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee. I was elected just 2 months ago, so we've only had 2 meetings thus far that I've been chair. As you know and have heard here today, the facts are alarming, devastating, and demand further action. Personally, I'm deeply saddened every month as we listen to victim after victim get run down in our streets. As you may know, San Francisco is the most deadly city in California for pedestrians and the 4th deadliest city nationwide. Founded in 2003, PSAC has been charged with providing guidance to the Board of Supervisors and is privileged to be able to stand before you today and represent the public at large. During our past 2 committee meetings, we have begun conducting business differently and moving at a much faster pace. We've become more effective and more proactive in our efforts. We've begun reintroducing PSAC to the community and started by creating a new website, sfpsac.com, and an entirely new social media presence. We also formed a new education subcommittee led by Ms. Robin Brasso and reviewed pedestrian safety programs used successfully by other cities. Following a presentation from State Senator Leland Yee's office, Ms. Annie Cho, that you heard speak earlier today, we sent a letter in support of Supervisor Marr's resolution in support of Senator Yee's extension of double fine zones on Van Ness and 19th Avenues. And yesterday we received a very nice thank you letter from Senator Mark Leno. PSAC reviewed the SFPUC wireless streetlight pilot project and receives monthly updates from the SFPD traffic company on recent pedestrian collisions and now on the number of citations as well. We also receive regular updates from the SFMTA and have spoken to the SFMTA on a number of occasions about issues like the corridor speed reduction program and also the traffic calming program revisions that you heard about a few moments ago. Regarding the new traffic calming program from the SFMTA, the new revisions were created with very little community input or public input or outreach. There was one survey, but the local application-based funding was cut to only $600,000, the equivalent of 71%, and there's currently a $9 million backlog. Only 20 to 25 projects are projected to be completed annually, and at this rate, by my calculations, the backlog alone would take at least 15 years to complete. Personally, I've tried for many years to install one speed hump on Greenwich Street in District 2 and have been unable to make any progress whatsoever. We have the support of Supervisor Farrell's office. This is due to a fatality that happened on that street in front of an early education school, and until just a few days ago, we were unable to submit even an application to make this request. Now the application process is more complex and requires twice the number of signatures in order to apply, and I don't understand why even a supervisor is unable to request something as simple as a speed hump in their district. We filed numerous requests with the SFMTA for pedestrian safety improvements all over San Francisco. We requested that the SFMTA launch an investigation into the unsafe conditions on Parker Avenue at the University of San Francisco and have not heard back. Similarly, we have not heard back from Rec and Parks about unsafe conditions in the Panhandle due to poor sprinkler maintenance. I recently joined the Mayor's Pedestrian Safety Task Force, which has now been disbanded, no longer meets. Unfortunately, the Mayor's strategy in its current form is unfunded, not a plan, simply a strategy, and in my opinion does not fulfill Mayor Gavin Newsom's 2010 executive directive. We are looking forward to the mayor releasing this week the final version of his pedestrian strategy, along with a funding plan as well. Failing when it comes to pedestrian safety, the University of San Francisco, the district in which I live, needs to be held accountable. PSAC analyzed the USF and University Terrace Association traffic calming plan and went on a tour of the University of San Francisco neighborhood led by Dr. Marty McIntyre. Following our tour of the USF neighborhood, I am happy to announce that most of the crosswalks surrounding USF have been newly repainted Continental style, and truncated curb ramps have been installed around the campus. Mr. Daniel Lawson, USF Executive Director and Chief of the Department of Public Safety, and Ms. Liz Miles, the USF Master Plan Manager, presented to PSAC along with the University Terrace Association President and concerned neighbors. Unfortunately, USF is delaying the traffic calming plan from moving forward, and in my opinion has demonstrated a clear disregard for pedestrian safety and for public health. The SFMTA submitted comments to USF on the proposed traffic calming plan over 6 months ago, and the SFMTA still has not received the revised plans or the comments for final review. Until the SFMTA receives these revised plans from the USF, the SFMTA is unable to provide a review of the traffic calming plan. USF has not spent any of the $1.2 million set aside for pedestrian safety efforts and is failing to adequately protect their students in an active urban environment. The USF dean's wife was run down and killed by a car on campus, yet the USF website still does not even mention pedestrian safety once. In contrast, we applaud the excellent leadership and advocacy efforts of Walk San Francisco, and we want to thank Ms. Elizabeth Stamp for being a great partner to PSAC. In addition, as you just saw, the SFCTA has been doing an excellent job when they come and speak before PSAC. In addition, our committee, I recently joined the SFCTA Transportation Plan Committee, and this committee focuses on creating financially constrained investment scenarios for the transportation plan and evaluates investment scenario equity analysis methodology. My goal as part of the SFTP at the SFCTA is to allocate additional funding for crucial programs like traffic calming and ensure that pedestrian safety is properly addressed as part of San Francisco's overall transportation plan. Unfortunately, the SFMTA does not currently have a dedicated representative that they send to these transportation meetings. We encourage additional appointments to PSAC, and following this meeting, I'll be stepping across the hall over to the Rules Committee, where we will be appointing 3 new members to our committee. Some members have resigned from PSAC during this past year, including Mr. Rothman, who you mentioned, and we have been actively recruiting new members, seeing that half of our seats are currently vacant. We added Mr. Howard Bloomberg and recruited other possible appointees. I reached out to the victim, Hanrin Chang's best friend, who you saw speak earlier here today, and she will be joining as our new student representative on PSAC. You also heard from Mr. John Winston earlier, Friends of Monterey Boulevard, and he will be joining as our new parent representative representing the school district. Supervisor Wiener's office will be presenting his new pedestrian safety legislative package to PSAC on April 9th, and in addition, we plan on riding along with the SFPD for pedestrian sting operations in the near future. At our next meeting on April 9th, we plan on requesting that the SFPD conduct these pedestrian sting operations much more often and expand to new locations. Seeking to become further engaged in pedestrian safety efforts, PSAC has strongly urged the SFMTA and other departments to involve our committee and the public during the commencement of projects instead of after the fact. Unfortunately, PSAC is rarely notified about pedestrian safety issues. For example, I've not received any reply about the new mayor's Pedestrian Safety Task Force 2030, which is already met, and I find out things like this only through the news once they're reported. There is obviously a clear lack of communication and coordination between the departments. Moving forward, PSAC promises to continue speaking for those without a voice, people like Hanrin Chang, Xander Urban, Hector Arana, Melissa Kitson, Tanya Madfies, and, like you heard earlier, the 3 people that are hit by cars every single day in our great city. We take seriously now the privilege of representing San Francisco citizens and their best interests, and we promise to continue advancing PSAC in a new direction with unrelenting resolve to effect meaningful change in the face of these deadly consequences. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak?
please come forward.